Hello, everyone. This is Old School from WhatTheBuck.net, giving you a brief wrap-up of training camp day one, the afternoon practice I went to yesterday. Sorry it took so long to get this up, but you'll get a brief review of what I saw while I was there. I did have to leave a little bit early, so I apologize. I won't have an in-depth review of the 7-on-7 stuff that went on later in the day or the full-speed 11-on-11s that I saw was going on. As I was departing training camp, we had more people from What the Buck there watching as well, and as I get information from them, I'll certainly pass it on to you. A couple of things that I went out to look at. First of all, training camp is the same experience it's been before. It's tremendous. If you're local, you need to try and find a way to get out there. They do a great job of really welcoming fans, and it's a terrific opportunity to see the guys up close and personal. Whether you want to watch the whole team, the skill positions, or the bigs, you get a great opportunity to do all of that, and the organization really does a first-rate job of making that accessible to all the fans. That being said, there were some things that I wanted to see when I went out to camp out of the guys who I hadn't seen yet, and I think that the local media is doing an amazing job this year of covering the camp, which has not been the case in the past, so kudos to those guys for getting out there and being in the hot sun and getting the coverage. But Daquan Bowers, Adrian Claiborne, our new bookends, people I think really wanted to see what they could do, and one word I think will summarize what I saw out of those two guys yesterday, and that's fast. These guys are both very, very fast. Now, I don't think that they're light or pushovers, and we'll know more about that as they get into more contact practices. But watching them go through the drills, these guys can flat out move. Now, another thing that surprised me, because all of the lead up to camp was about how big Bryan Price had gotten, and I assure you that this is not just a fat guy trying to protect another big guy and say he's not as big as they say. He's not. Listen, I've been around Sam Adams before, who was every bit of 450 pounds at one point. Bryan Price is not as big as people are saying. Now, was he held out of some of the practice areas that I saw yesterday? Yes. Now, this is the second practice of the day, and the reports were that he got pulled out after limping. He was out there running around doing drills, but it seemed like the change of direction drills they were kind of keeping him out of. Now, straightforward, he was fine, and he was certainly seemed to be probably 75%. But I think it's a little bit overblown, and with camp, if you guys know Florida weather, that weight is going to pour off of him. Right, so I'm not as concerned as a lot of people are about Bryan Price. I know what kind of explosiveness he has. Coach Millard apparently has seen that as well. I think we're going to be fine with Bryan. But you can't lose sight of the fact that Roy Miller was on the uptrend last year towards the end of the season. We got Oakham behind him as well and some other depth. Now, free agency is a big issue for folks. We'll talk about that in other videos. But we don't know that this is the final roster. We got a ton of guys out there. We got double numbers running around. A couple of high points again. Luke Stocker is a man-child. This guy is way bigger than I thought he was going to be, has Velcro on his hands, and is deceptively fast. This is a hell of a pickup, guys. This gives us a really dynamic two tight end set. Now, again, Kellen Winslow, for all of the greatness that he has in actually catching the ball, which is the primary responsibility of the tight end, not a great blocker historically. Now, Luke Stocker, hopefully he can do a little bit more of that, but one thing is certain, from a skill perspective, he looks solid. Now, overall, the other person that kind of splashed yesterday was receiver Gant, and I don't even have his first name. I don't have the roster sheet with me. I want to get this video up before I leave for day two. Tall, fast, really good hands, and really fluid on the field. I'm going to do some more research on him and see what to look forward to the rest of camp. But one of the things you know about camp is there's always the guys that pop, that physically look impressive. You don't know anything until they turn on the lights and you see if these guys can perform under pressure. So that's going to be where it really comes, where we separate the men from the boys, as it were. Now, overall impressions, rusty. The guys looked rusty. This was not as good as the first day of camp last year. They were not as sharp. They were up-tempo. They were friendly. It was a great environment for fans. It looked exactly like you would expect a camp to look like after a lockout. Now, do I think that their off-season practice helped them? Sure, I'm sure it did. I'm sure this could have looked a lot worse, right? And I don't think it's from a lack of effort. I think it's just a matter of they've got to get with its coaches, and they've got to get their heads and their bodies in game shape and game preparedness. Now, I'm going out there at 2:30 today to do day two of camp. We'll have a report after every session of camp. I should be going to quite a few sessions this week as well. If you have specific players you'd like me to look for, send an email to questions@whatthebuck.net, and I'll try and keep an eye out for those particular players. But all in all, it's great to have Buccaneer football back. We didn't see some of the guys like Davin Joseph, the guys that hadn't signed their contracts weren't out there, but it was good to see the boys out there playing and getting some activity. A couple of other folks, Dakota Watson looks really, really quick out there. But again, we won't know whether that's going to translate into play on the field until we actually see it. But he popped yesterday, and I did watch E.J. Biggers make some jumps on the ball that were pretty impressive. Covering out routes, specifically one against Desmond Briscoe on the far side of field 3 that was very, very impressive, that almost resulted in a pick. It certainly is a pass breakup, but it almost resulted in a pick 6. So that's the report from day one at camp. It'll be more in-depth today as I'll be there for the duration of the camp, and hopefully we'll get some more information as the camp proceeds, all culminating in the first preseason game in Kansas City, where I will be going. So if you're a Kansas City listener and you want to meet up for a beer or something, let me know. Thanks for tuning in. Comment it up. Let me know what you think.